Yeah, I got it. Hey, y'all. Thanks for joining us. This is Countdown to Election Week with the Progress Texas team. As y'all know, for the past few weeks, we've been interviewing the candidates in Texas' hottest races. And now that they're busy campaigning, it's time to turn the camera on ourselves to talk to you about what are we looking at. Over the next couple days, we're going to be joining ourselves. You can join us every day at 12 p.m. to learn about what we're seeing in the campaigns, what you can expect, and what's going to happen in November. So I want to turn it over to our team to talk about what are you seeing. Ed, you want to go first?
Obviously turnout is bananas right now. I think that we're seeing record turnout in Texas through yesterday, Sunday. Turnout in Texas right now is 80% of the total turnout in 2016. And that's just the early vote. But we still have a week left to go. And then, of course, election day during election week next week is also going to be big. So these numbers, big numbers, mean big things for Texas. It's really exciting, and I expect Democrats are going to do very well when this is all settled.
As what Ed was saying, I think that something I saw the other day that someone posted, and is so true, is that you don't get results in turnout like this if people want more of the same. So people are turning out to vote because they want to make a difference, and they know that the leaders in office right now are not the people that they want to have for the next 4 years. And so I think there's going to be a political reckoning like we've never seen before in Texas, and really that we've never seen before in the country.
I totally agree. I feel like there are also record turnouts of first-time voters as well, and of folks that didn't vote in the 2016 election that are voting now, which is phenomenal. And myself, when I went to vote last week, happened to be behind a first-time voter who was yelled at for having his phone, and he said, "I'm sorry, it's my first time voting, but I just really wanted to vote." And so I was just so excited to actually witness it happening.
And one thing we've seen too when it comes to turnout is the young Texans that are getting out to vote. There have been multiple reports the last couple of weeks. I think it's 3 times as many people have turned out to vote so far in early voting than in early voting in 2016. Hopefully I'm getting that right. But the young voter turnout this year has been phenomenal, and that's due to the efforts of many of different voting rights orgs across the country, and just organizations like Move Texas, Jolt Texas, and organizations that are really focused on registering people to vote this year. I think it's 1.9 million more registered voters in this election than in 2016. Is that correct, Ed?
Yes, it was 1.8 or 1.9 more voters registered in the past 4 years, and a lot of those are in the high growth counties. So like Williamson County, Diana's home county of Hays County. Not only has Hays County had more registered voters, but Diana, isn't the turnout already insane in your county right now?
Yeah, so just I believe it might have been yesterday or the day before, but Hays County became the first county in the United States to surpass its total 2016 turnout.
That's crazy. Going back to what Wesley was saying about people only do that if they want change.
Well, so Ed, you bring up a good point. So do you, Wesley. What do you think are some of these things that young voters, new voters want to see a change in?
I think one of the biggest issues in this election is obviously healthcare. And with the COVID-19 crisis, that just gets compounded. People need access to affordable care, and they know that what's happening in the Senate right now, the Republican senators trying to push through the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett. They know that their health care is at stake, and that we need people in office who are going to decide in their favor and in the best interest of Texans. Texas has the worst uninsured rate in the country. And so young voters know this, and they know that they need to get out and vote in order to really procure their rights and make sure that they're going to have the rights that they have now moving forward.
So, Wesley, you mentioned SCOTUS. What's happening with SCOTUS today?
So the Supreme Court is set to potentially confirm Judge Amy Coney Barrett to the Senate is set to confirm Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. I think I'm not 100% sure when the vote's going to happen. I've seen different conflicting reports, but by tonight, I think there should be a vote. And so that we are doing a lot of work around that. I think, Diana, if you want to talk a little bit about the work that we're doing and the truck that we have going around to different polling locations.
Yeah, definitely. So I believe it was it last week or a couple weeks ago that we had during the very first week of early voting, we had a truck going around the Dallas area, and we'd prepped that with messaging, showing Cornyn's face firstly, just showing his face, because a lot of Texans, very fun fact, don't even know what he looks like, don't even know who he is. So we wanted to first let Texans know what he looks like, and also talk about the fact that he is pushing for and backing this nominee, the confirmation of Amy, who is someone who is a threat to Texans' rights, and some of those rights being reproductive rights, abortion, things like that. So we had it driving around a bunch of different polling locations up there, and today it is in Houston. So if you're out voting in Houston, look out just to see if you happen to see it. It's at different college campuses today, and I believe the Houston arena where the NBA usually plays is where it's at this morning. So we're really excited about that.
We've also got some pictures up of it on Instagram. If you go to Progress Texas Instagram, actually you may even had one on Progress Texas Facebook here. If people go through some of our feed, you might be able to see that truck. And what's really interesting about this whole Supreme Court thing is that Republicans really overreached on this, because 4 years ago, they decided that they were going to let a Supreme Court seat sit vacant for almost an entire year, because they said that the voters need to weigh in. And here, 4 years later, they're rushing one through while voters are voting, saying that they need to get it done right away. And it's just this massive flip-flop, a supreme flip-flop, if you will. Sorry. And I think it's the kind of thing that voters really feel irked over. And why shouldn't they? This is it's just such a brazen reach for political power on the part of John Cornyn, Ted Cruz, and all the other Senate Republicans. And I think voters are really fed up with it. And it's another reason you're seeing the turnout numbers be so big in Texas. We're leading the nation in turnout right now, which is amazing. It never happens in Texas.
And one other thing that I think is really important to keep in mind is this is happening. The Senate is rushing this process in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has killed over 200,000 Americans and over 17,000 Texans. And so it's not just about the fact that they're doing it and it's a brazen reach for power. It's also about the fact that they're doing it and they could be doing other stuff. They could be working on COVID relief for millions of Americans and really working people are losing their jobs, people are losing their lives, and instead they're focused on rushing through this Supreme Court nominee. And that just shows what their priorities are, and the fact that they really don't care about us here at home. They really don't care about the average everyday Texan who's struggling right now. They're just trying to get their people on the court so that they can have more power.
Yeah, and so, we've talked about it. People are fired up. Anthony Scoggins right now told us that HDCC fundraising numbers are going crazy in Texas because Democrats are activated. In regard to SCOTUS, Daryl Evans has a question. It's coming to us from Facebook. Can the Senate Democrats just stay home until November 4th? Can they not allow a vote on SCOTUS? Is that something that we could do?
Unfortunately, there's not enough Democrats to prevent a quorum from taking place in the Senate. It's 47 Democrats right now. You only need 51 to make it happen. So unless a couple of Republicans were able to go along with them, they might be able to do it. Democrats did try to do some filibuster maneuvers yesterday to drag this out a little bit. But again, there's only so far you can get. But it's a good question, and it's a good reason why people should be looking at the Senate race between John Cornyn and MJ Hagar, because this is one of those situations where something is happening in the Senate and it's very frustrating and you wish you could do something about it, but you can't. You can get out and you can vote for MJ Hagar, and you can tell your friends and family to do the same as well. By the way, that Senate race, extremely competitive Senate race, and it is a sleeper race. It's not one that's on a lot of people's radars, but here's a couple things that are really interesting about that. John Cornyn has never once in the entirety of this campaign been above 50%. And for an 18-year incumbent to not be above 50%, to have 22% of the voters still undecided in that race is a huge opportunity for someone like MJ Hagar, who outraised him 3-1 in the last quarter, got him running scared, and is really putting up a real fight I'm looking forward to that race, and I really hope that this high turnout means good things for her.
Yeah, I'm not from Texas, but as I learned about John Cornyn, I realized he's run for state office a total of, I think, 7 times. And yet voters don't know who he is. And yet he's like facing this big fundraising gap. Hopefully this is the year. And, Janice, you're coming from Facebook. This, fingers crossed, this might be the year Cornyn faces defeat, because he's just been Trump's lapdog this whole time. And now he's trying to walk it back, but we can't let him.
Yeah.
I think that's something really important to talk about too, Sop, because he's been in office, he's been a senator for nearly 2 decades. And one of the questions in the only Senate debate that happened here in Texas between MJ and Cornyn, one of the questions that he was asked is, why don't people know who you are? Like, why don't Texans know who you are? And that is such a terrible question to be asked, because you've been our senator for nearly 2 decades. And that just shows that you're not working for us. You're working for people in Washington, you're working for politicians, you're working for corporate interests. You're not working in the best interests of Texans. Otherwise, we'd know about you, because we know that you're working for us and you're getting things done that really impact our lives. And it's not the case.
And it's funny now that folks are learning who he is. It sounds like he's a little bit scared. He's trying to walk back some of the things he's done and he said, and trying to make it seem as if he's not as close to Trump as he actually is.
So we've covered SCOTUS, we've covered Cornyn. Is there anything else that we want to talk about in today's installment of our new show?
I think we can we talk a little bit about the poll that came out yesterday, showing that Biden is up 3 points in Texas. And I know that some people find that hard to believe, because we're just so used to Texas being a red state. But the truth is, Texas has never been a red state. It has always been a non-voting state. And that if we can increase turnout, we could change turnout, we could change our political reality. And that is what is happening in 2020 right now, is the turnout is off the charts. Not only is it high by Texas standards, we lead the nation in the most votes cast right now. So let's talk about that, what that means for that poll. Not only is Biden up 3 points, but he was up in the poll before that. He was tied in the poll before that. He was up in the poll before that as well. There were a couple of polls early in October that showed Trump was up. 3 things happened. 1, voters started showing up and the polling started to get a little bit better. But the 3 events that happened: the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and rushing through a Supreme Court nominee, the first debate where Trump had an awful debate performance and he couldn't control his emotions, and the third thing was when Trump himself got COVID. And when you look at those 3 things and how they track with the polls, that shows when Biden started having his upswing in Texas. And hey, man, if you're going to have an upswing, right before early vote is the right time to do it.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we're also seeing, Biden's been investing more in Texas over the last few weeks. I think he's put millions of dollars into advertising here. Jill Biden visited Texas, I think last week, and now they're saying that Kamala Harris is actually going to come visit Texas as well. So I think people across the country are recognizing that Texas is a battleground state. Maybe not everyone. I think Republicans aren't willing to accept it. Over the weekend, Rick Perry actually said, why would Trump come to Texas? It's not a battleground. And I think that that's really just, they're shooting themselves in the foot, because Texans know that we're a battleground state and we're excited and ramped up to get out to vote.
Yeah, and you mentioned the polls. I wanted to just point one thing out to the viewers. There's a lot about polls not being right because of 2016. The reality is the polls were pretty accurate. And what happens, we didn't have a lot of statewide polling. And, we've talked to pollsters, we've been reading 538. What we're finding out is that the pollsters across the board have changed their methodologies to make sure that they price in things they didn't think about last time. Education of voters, rural city split, all those things, which doesn't mean to say that like the polls are 100% accurate, but they're taking into consideration a lot of things they didn't take into consideration last time. And we can be much more confident in what they're saying. Added to that, the sheer number of polls that we're seeing in Texas and other states. It's really amazing.
I'll add one thing to that. The polls in 2018 were a lot better. In fact, the polls in 2017 were a lot more accurate. And when you look at the polls so far in the 2020 primaries, also more accurate. So we are seeing that correction in the polling methodology. The biggest one was one you mentioned, Satvik, which is the education difference. Those are definitely giving us a more accurate read as to where the electorate is going heading towards the election day.
Well, great, Dan. I think you seem like you want to say something. You want to have the last word before we sign off today?
Yeah, definitely. Just the numbers are huge. We're seeing a huge turnout of the youth vote, of the Latinx vote, a lot of people of color, and a lot of, despite every attempt at the Republicans try to throw at us to try and stop us from voting, it's not stopping us. We're out there, we're voting. I feel like Texas, like Ed said, it's a blue state. It's just a non-voting state, but we're out there, we're voting, and so really excited to see what happens. But despite these large numbers, it's still so important to check in on your friends and make sure that they have a voting plan. And if they are unsure as to who to vote for, we also at Progress Texas have come out with a progressive voter guide that you can check out on our website. And you can print that out, take that with you to the polls. You can share it with friends, spread the word. And on that voter guide, you can see a lot of the flippable seats. The seats that are so close that polls have showed are very close and that are very winnable. And just let's do everything we can as a community, as Texans, to finally flip this state.
Well, Diana, Ed, Wesley, everyone who joined us, thanks for coming to the first installment of Countdown to the Election Week. We'll be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. So stay tuned, bring some friends, check out our voter guide, and make sure your friends, your family, and your community vote. Thanks so much, y'all.
Thank you.